Hello everyone, this is Matt here with Night Run Studio. Welcome to our new series on how to add music and sound effects to your game. In this first video, we're going to be looking at how to add an effect when you collect an item. Let's get started. And there's just a couple of things you'll need before we get started. First of all, you'll need some sort of a player who can move around and interact with your item. And second, you're going to need an actual item. In my case, I've just added this item icon here of a coffee cup. And on there, I've just added a box collider that is set to be a trigger. With that done, you're ready to get started. Now, all of the audio in Unity is handled through audio listeners and sources. So if you were to click on your camera, you should find that there's already a component called an audio listener which receives any sound in your scene. If for some reason you've removed that, you'll need to add it back on. Now that we've done that, we're ready to click on our item, in my case my coffee cup, and I'm going to add an audio source, which is where the sound is actually going to come from. The most important things here for our purposes are going to be play on awake, which we will want to unclick, otherwise the sound effect will play as soon as the game starts, as well as loop, which we'll want to leave unclicked, but we'll need in later tutorials as it will just play the sound effect over and over again. If you like, you can play around with volume and pitch, but we won't need those for this video. What you will need though is an audio clip. I'm going to just select one I've already downloaded called Item Collect, and I'll leave a link in the description in case you want some free sound effects for yourself. Adding those sound effects into your game is as easy as drag and dropping them down into your assets folder, at which point you can preview them by pressing play, and can then add them into your audio source. Alright, so now we can click on our item again, and now that it has an audio source, it's time to write our script. I'm just going to call this one Item Collection. And with that done, we can go ahead and open up the script. Now once we get inside here, we're just going to start up at the top by creating a reference to our audio source. And we'll just call this audio source. At this point, we just need to tell our script where it can find the specific audio source we're talking about. To accomplish this, we just type audio source is equal to get component audio source, which just tells our script that it can look on the item itself for a component called audio source. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to use on trigger enter 2D. Remember, you can start typing it and then double tap tab to generate all that syntax. And at this point, we just want to make sure that anytime an object enters the trigger on this item, it's going to check the collision game object to see if it has a tag that's equal to player. Back in Unity, you can check this out by clicking on your player and then just double checking that you have in fact made its tag equal to player. If for some reason you don't have a player tag, you can just click add tag down at the bottom to make sure that that appears. So what we want to do then at this point is if an object has entered the trigger on our item and it is in fact tagged as a player, we just want our audio source to play whatever clip we've put in it. We can do that with audio source.play. Now at this point, if we were to play our game, we would run into a couple of problems. Now if my player walks over and hits the object, you'll notice it's playing the sound effect just fine, but not actually collecting the item. So we've got some work to do there. Now a common method for fixing this problem is to use the destroy function and just do destroy game object. This would make it so that as soon as we touch the object, it destroys itself, making it look like we've collected it. The problem is that our audio source takes some time to play, and if we destroy the object immediately, it would destroy itself before it has time to actually play the clip. We can fix this by doing comma, and then have our audio source look at the length of its clip, and it will wait until it's done before it destroys the object. However, this has its own problems. So now when our player collects the item, you'll notice that it does in fact play the clip, but then there's this delay before it deletes the item, which just looks kind of weird. So let's try a different method. So we're just going to get rid of that destroy function altogether. And instead what we're going to do is turn off our box collider and our sprite renderer, making it so that the object no longer collides with us and that our sprite renderer no longer shows an image. So we'll need to make a reference to our box collider, which we'll just call item collider, and to our sprite renderer, which we can call SR. As usual, we'll need to tell our script how to find these. So in our start method, so at the very beginning of the game, we'll tell it that the item collider is just equal to the box collider component that can be found on this game object. And our sprite renderer is just equal to the sprite renderer that's on this object. That way it'll search right at the start for those things, and now it will be able to talk to them. So now when the player collides, we'll play our sound effect, We'll also turn off the collider right away by using .enabled equals false. And you can see here on our item that essentially all we're doing is just toggling off this check button here on our box collider and sprite renderer, which essentially makes the object look like it's disappeared. I'll now just add this sprite renderer .enabled equals false to make sure that the image also disappears. With that done, it will now appear that we're collecting the item, as it will play the sound effect when we touch it, but it will also turn off the sprite renderer and box collider, making it look like the object has actually disappeared from our map. All right, I hope that you found this one helpful. We'll be looking at a lot of other sound and music effects you can add in Unity in the following tutorial. Hope to see you in those videos. Until then, this is Matt with Nightrun Studio. Cheers.